Welcome to Turnover Tactics, the brand new six-part series from Host Planet and Turno. If the time between guest stays feels like a chaotic scramble, you are not alone. Turnover is often the biggest bottleneck in any short-term rental business. It's where reviews are won or lost and where profit either flows or leaks away. Over the next 6 episodes, we're giving you the complete professional blueprint for mastering this critical phase of operations. We'll show you how to automate your scheduling, guarantee quality control, and build a reliable team so you can scale your business without the stress. In this episode, Turno CEO Assaf Karmon will outline why turnovers cause more stress than just about every other part of vacation rental hosting and what you can do to simplify cleaning and maintenance. Turnover Tactics is brought to you in collaboration with Turno, the all-in-one cleaning and turnover management platform built specifically for short-term rental hosts. If you've ever scrambled to find a reliable cleaner or wasted hours managing schedules, Turno changes everything. With their global cleaner marketplace, automated scheduling, and real-time updates, you'll never stress about turnovers again. Whether you manage one property or 100, Turno helps you stay guest ready effortlessly. Simply click the link in the show notes to get started. It's time you let Turno take over. Assaf, thank you for joining us on Turnover Tactics. When did you realize that turnovers are the hardest part of vacation rental hosting?
Day one of hosting, maybe hour one of hosting. You know, you get your first booking, you're like, oh my God, this is awesome, this is working. And then you're like, oh, I guess the first time I cleaned it myself. And then, that took just one time for me to understand that this is not what I signed up for. Like, this is not real estate investing, right? I shouldn't be cleaning myself. I also did a horrible job cleaning and, I'm just like not a natural. Then once I got over this like self-cleaning phase, I was like, okay, let me find someone who can help me. So first I went to, my regular housekeeper, the one who was cleaning my house. And, she does a good job cleaning, but like the sense of urgency and criticality just isn't there. She's like, oh, sorry, I can't come Tuesday. And it was like, what do you mean you can't come Tuesday? This is someone coming, so you get over that phase and like, okay, let me try and find someone who knows what they're doing. But there really wasn't at the time a way to really know if someone knows what they're doing. And then once you do find someone who knows what they're doing, they're cleaning vacation rental, they have the criticality in mind. They're also one person. So they get sick, their kids get sick, their cars break down, there's weather, there's issues. And then, I finally graduated to the point of like, okay, I need to have a system and I need to have multiple people and I need to have a standard practice. And this is the only way that I'm going to make this real estate investment somewhat passive, right? Because if you're constantly stressing and worried, or God forbid, like actually cleaning yourself, this is not real estate investing. This is, it's like when you kind of factor in your own time and the value of your time, then your yield is actually pretty low, right? Like this is a good business if you're not spending a lot of time doing low value work. Like if you're putting your valuable time doing low value work, then you're cheating yourself to think you're getting good yield, but you're actually putting in a lot of like $15 an hour, $20 an hour of your time that's hopefully worth more than that into this venture, right? So people need to be real with themselves. Like your time is valuable. And if you're spending it doing low value tasks, the yield you're getting is not real.
I often think about that, the time aspect, because for a lot of people, especially when they start out and it might be their first investment, usually it's a side hustle. It is an investment. They have a full-time job as well. And if that full-time job, if they're a lawyer or a doctor or they're a director of a company, and usually they'd be charging hundreds of dollars an hour to be working. They don't want to be spending 3 or 4 hours cleaning somewhere when their time could be much better spent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't know how many people I talk to that they're very high income people, and they're like, "Oh, I don't trust anyone to clean my Airbnb." It's like, why are you working for fairly low wages? Just put in some more time at work. Like if you don't trust anyone, then you shouldn't be in this business. Put some extra hours at work and keep it simple. But if you want to build, a side business that's passive and you want to scale it, you need to learn how to trust people. You need to learn how to build systems and automate things and create a process that drives itself for the most part. Over the years at Turno and hosting, I've came to this like philosophy of management by exception, right? Like I manage by creating processes and then observing exceptions. When I see an exception, I try to create more processes so that these exceptions don't happen, and then over the time plugging more and more of these exceptions so that you end up spending very little time on the day to day, right? So, and this is how we build Turno around. It's like, okay, let's just make sure that we can automate everything that we can, and alert people when there isn't an exception, right? To really make sure that the time that you spend creating processes instead of like cleaning toilets.
Cleaning the toilet. Exactly. Yeah. Why do you think turnovers cause more stress than just about every other part of vacation rental hosting?
Because it just happens all the time, right? If you have a busy calendar, you're going to have easy 10 turnovers a month, right? So that's a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong. And it's also a lot of friction. And you can also have friction from bookings that don't even happen. So if someone, let's say that you're not using Turno and you're communicating with your cleaners, someone books, hey, can you come clean at that day time? Someone changes their booking, you have to call them again. Then they cancel the booking, like, oh, never mind. So there's actually a lot of mental stress just to keep in your head, and kind of every time you get a booking, you also get this like little zang of like cortisol of like stress that oh my god, now I have to call someone, make sure they're available. Like you don't want that.
You want it to be automated and simple. So tell us then, I mean, you've kind of been leading towards this. I mean, how your own experience as a host led to you founding Turno? What was the moment where you thought, aha, this is what the industry needs?
So like I described, it was really, really very quick that I realized that this is either not for me, hosting, because this is very, very stressful, or that I need to create a system to get this under control. So in my training, I'm a software developer. So, when you're a developer, every problem that you see, you're like, oh, I can build an app that would solve this. So this is what happened. Initially, it was around automating the turnover schedule. That was the first go at it. And then once you got that under control, we realized, well, sure, automating the schedule is really nice, but having people to act on that schedule is actually a bigger problem. And then we went about, okay, well, let's try and build that network. Let's try to connect all the people to make it apparent, like who knows what they're doing and when they're available, what is their price. So that's kind of became a larger issue of how do we find people, to act on that calendar. And the process, we also figured out this is actually a really good business for cleaners. If they want repeat work, it actually is a lot nicer for them to go into a house that is not as cluttered, right? Like residential cleaning, there's a lot of your stuff, your papers, your like, your dirty underwear. It's just like it's not as fun to deal with versus vacation rentals, which are like relatively empty, uncluttered spaces that it's kind of the same thing every time, and they're made for people to go into themselves. So it's like somewhat more flexible. Um, so it's kind of good business for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've thought often, actually, especially since getting involved in short term rentals, that there is money in cleaning, not just short term rental cleaning, but all sorts of cleaning. My next business might be something cleaning related. Let's break it down then. What are the most common turnover mistakes that people make when they're hosting?
So there is, like we said, the most terrible, unforgivable sin, which is like cleaning yourself. Don't do it. Odds are you're not that good at it. Uh, and also, you should be doing higher value things. And it's also kind of ties you and your lifestyle to the guest schedule, which is not what we got into this business for. So that's level one sin. Don't do that. Level two, manual communication, right? If you have to worry about scheduling, that you're just doing it wrong. If you have one property, you can use Turno for scheduling for free. Okay, take all these hours and stress out of your life, and kind of trust a system that has done it millions of times. So manual scheduling, that's another sin that we talked about. Using just one vendor, right, or one cleaner, that creates the stress. People have this is not like, oh, can you come every Monday at 8? People can work around that. But if it's like every, it's random days, people have commitments, they have families. Even when they are trustworthy and consistent, also shit happens, right? Kids get sick, parents get sick, people themselves get sick, their car break down. There's traffic. There's things. So you need to have multiple people that you can trust. Um, then having a documented process, right? Every clean needs to be the same, right? Like when there is variation, then there's different outcomes. But if every clean is the same, you give people checklists. Do ABC in this room. Do ABC in the bathroom, in the shower. Um, you are helping your cleaners give you better service when you give them detailed instructions. And you'll learn over time what's important. You're going to get feedback from guests. They're going to say, the towels kind of smell. So you're like, okay, why do they smell? Because they probably weren't dried properly. What does that mean? You tell your cleaners, put the towels on an extra cycle, right? Make sure they're really dry coming out. Same thing for the sheets. You're going to get feedback. That there's some kind of smell of mold in the bathroom. Make sure it's out. Hey, open the window before you leave. Make sure that there's air, right? Like keep the fans blowing. Like you're going to get feedback, incorporate it into your checklist, and then you're not leaving it up to chance. Then you're constantly improving, and you're helping your cleaners help you deliver a better guest experience.
All fantastic tips. And I am guilty of making plenty of those mistakes. Not starting off and cleaning myself. I didn't do that, but pretty much all the other things. Glad to say I've put them right now because I've learned the error of my ways. But they are fantastic tips for anybody in this game. What do you think breaks first in relation to turnovers when you scale your property management business? And how do you potentially avoid that?
Right. So, you have one property, and we talked about like an ideal system. The good thing is having multiple properties work with the same system, right? You need to have for your property, a very good checklist. You need to have a couple of trusted people. And here's a good tip about if you're going to have, like, let's say, two or three cleaners against one property, you need to give each one of them a chance to clean it. Because if you have one person that you work with them, because they're the first person you met and you kind of like them and you just give them all the work, but you don't give your backups any opportunity to learn, one, you don't really know if they're engaged with you anymore when you need them, or when you do need them, you don't really know how good they are, and you have to remember your property. So you need to kind of make sure everyone gets um, a little bit of action, so that you know that you can trust them. You keep them warm. So don't give just one person 100% of your business, and then hope that when things break down that your replacements are warm, because odds are that they won't. Like, you need to keep people engaged if you want them to pitch in when you need them. So multiple vendors, active vendors per property, detailed checklists per property, automation in terms of like turnover schedule, automate your payments. Like, again, like, it's not worth your mental load to kind of run payroll. This is, at least, when you're talking about a handful of properties, like, you're not saving any money by doing it yourself. Trust these kind of very affordable systems that are already set in place, and just focus of, this is a real estate investment that should be relatively passive. Like, if you find yourself dealing with people, dealing with um, payments, dealing with too many exceptions, you're probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And again, if you're eating into your own personal hours where you should be doing those high value tasks, this is kind of a theme of this episode, really. Then yeah, you're kind of doing it wrong, because it should be as hands off as possible. You touched a little bit there on automation. So, how do you think automation can reduce stress for hosts, and where do you think it can make the biggest difference?
I think when you get to the point where there is a booking and you just know that you're set, you know that your cleanings are aware, they've confirmed that they're going, you know that when they're going there, they have everything they need. So, and another thing maybe I forgot to mention is like tracking inventory. Even if everyone is on time and is ready to work, but you don't have enough toilet paper or coffee or towels or bleach or soap, then you create an exception, right? Which is, someone has to go do a run and do shopping and wait at the property while that happens. So track your inventory and make sure that it gets replenished before it runs out, so that you're always ahead of, buy a little extra more so that things don't run out. Kind of be prepared for, you're going to have a guess of like, what are they drinking, like 10 cups of coffee a day? That's crazy, right? Like, but guess there are guests like that. So we need to be prepared so that we don't get stressed, right? You just kind of preemptively take care of these things so that they don't disrupt your life. So I think if you are, you're a real estate investor, you have a handful of properties, you probably have another job. You better focus on that rather than doing menial work. If you are a property manager, your most high value time is getting more properties, is
Uh,
networking, building, prospecting, getting more properties under management. That's where you should be doing, right? If you are cleaning yourself, or like manually scheduling, or running all kinds of silly payrolls, then you're not chasing clients. You're not expanding your portfolio as much as you could be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, try and keep track of it 1 month. If you're spending a bit too much time in your business, track the amount of hours that you are doing on short-term rentals. And then I think after that, if you're finding that there's, tasks that are cropping up over and over again, think to yourself, right, what can I automate here? Because you can automate pretty much everything in short-term rentals to really get down the amount of hours that you're putting into it. Assaf, I think a lot of hosts, especially when they're starting out, they will go for the cheapest cleaner, the cheapest option, because they want to keep costs as low as possible. Why might this be a bad idea?
What we really want to optimize for is kind of stability and reliability, right? We want to make sure people go when they are said they was going to go. And if someone comes in really low, like it's possible that that they'll go once or twice, but then if a better opportunity comes up, they'll go for it naturally. So you want to make sure that it feels like something sustainable. It feels like like something fair, that someone is willing to leave their house and come repeatedly and sustainably to show up for. It doesn't mean you have to pay egregious amounts. Um, if you're going to a big cleaning company that had multi layers of management, you're probably going to be paying too much. You're also probably not going to get the most. They're not going to use your checklist, because they're going to have their own different processes. So I wouldn't recommend that either. So you kind of want the ideal person is like someone independent and reliable that gets like decent fair pay, that that he will show up for this again and again and be happy doing it. Another thing I recommend is tip every now and then. Someone does a good job, you get a 5-star review from your guest, tip. We also have a feature in Turno that's automatic tipping. When you get a 5-star Airbnb review, like we will automatically tip the cleaner who worked before that guest, and kind of align incentives so that people know, oh, when I do a good job, and people appreciate it, that I'm compensated. I think everyone feels good about it. I know in America we have a big tipping culture, not so much in Europe, but I think it doesn't have to be a lot of money, but it keeps everyone motivated.
I like that idea. Yeah. Really great idea. And I've made the mistake. I remember at one point I needed a new cleaner and spoke to a few different options and went for the cheapest one. And it turned out to be a terrible idea, because I think she just wasn't motivated particularly, because it probably wasn't worth her time. And that meant missing a lot of things. It led to a lot of complaints about cleaning, and even a few times where she just didn't turn up for one reason or another, because I don't know, she didn't get the communication or didn't get the alert or whatever it was. So yeah, cheapest is not always best. And I've been in that boat where I've been forced to rush round to a property when somebody makes that horrible call. Hey, we've just arrived and we don't think it's been cleaned. As a house, a property manager, it's the worst call you can get.
The worst.
We've mentioned this as well. The kind of the common issue of just relying on maybe one local cleaner who lives down the road. Again, let's just reiterate that the pitfalls of this. And another thing I want to ask you as well is, should you go for kind of individual cleaners, do you think? Or is it better to work with a company who maybe have a bit of a bigger team and can be there if somebody's ill or whatever, or has to take a kid to school or something?
Yes and no. I think for me specifically, I like working with like 2 or 3 individuals. I find that the individuals are a little more motivated than the cleaning company employees, where usually are paid less because there's the overhead of management. But here's a nice thing. Well, kind of a pitch here for Turno is that when you work with Turno marketplace cleaners, we have this thing called Turno Cleaner Guarantee, which means that you basically text our support in a couple of seconds. Someone is going to answer and you say, "Hey, listen, so, I don't have a cleaner for today. we'll find someone in your area and send them there. Even if they're not on your team right now, we have a very, very deep bench, literally thousands and thousands of people. And we will, we will text 1,000 people and we will find someone to show up. It might not be someone that you'll continue to work with, or maybe you will, but we will literally text 1,000 people and get someone there.
And that is the ideal solution. Like I say, when you get that call saying, hey, just arrived and it's not being cleaned, if you can get somebody there straight away, then that's going to save you going around with the vacuum cleaner like I ended up doing. So as we know, then, so Turno operates across the globe. Obviously, you've got big presence in the US and growing in many parts of the world as well, including the UK. I actually found my current cleaner on Turno. He's fantastic, doing a brilliant job. So I'm interested. What are the cultural differences that you've spotted from hosts in different countries around the world?
It might be a little caricaturesque, but I think that at least in Europe, I don't know necessarily about the UK, but the rest of Europe, kind of the hosting, it's kind of a lot of like long family businesses that they've been doing this for, I don't know, 100 years. And they're kind of a little bit set in their ways sometimes. Whereas a lot of people in the US, well, they've been doing it for a couple of years. And for them, it's like, it's a real estate investment. And they're aligned of like, okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let me automate this process. Whereas I think people in Europe are getting to it, but maybe a little slower. But having said that, I think everyone is kind of receptive to no one is enjoying this process, right? I think like there's very few people who enjoy scheduling the cleans or like, or following up. It's something that everyone is kind of like ready to give up and to just let technology take over here. Personally, like in my personal life, I kind of want to have less technology than more technology. I kind of like to write on, pencil and paper sometimes. I like to read like real books, not the Kindle. But I think in this case, like technology is really a net good for everyone. Like this is a task no one enjoys doing, and will be happy to take it off your plate.
Absolutely. There will be hosts and property managers out there thinking turnovers and cleaning are the bane of my life. So final bit of advice then. What would your advice be to those people? And what do you think a great turnover should look like?
It should be where you don't know that there was a guest there and you don't know that it even happened, right? It's one of those passive things that just happen exactly according to the plan. So a guest came there, they left, a cleaner came there, cleaned exactly the same way as always, left, got paid, and you don't even know that it happened. And I'll give you a kind of a really really good example of something that happened at Turno. So we had a Turno customer that passed away, and their Airbnb was active, so people were booking it. Their Turno was active, and cleaners were cleaning it, and that went on for several months until I think the credit card expired or something like that. And so just the process was so automated that it was just happening. Like you can literally run this from your grave.
There's a marketing campaign there, isn't there? Amazing. Run it from your grave. I think what a brilliant way to finish. Amazing how far we've got with technology and automation in the STR world. Assaf, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for sharing the story of Turno and all those fantastic cleaning and turnover tips. And thanks for joining us on Turnover Tactics.
Thanks for having me, James. Always a pleasure.
That's a wrap for this episode of Turnover Tactics. Huge thanks to Assaf Karmon for joining us all the way from Honolulu. And remember, Turno can help you manage your rentals from the grave. What a story. Don't forget, if you're ready to stop the chaos and start treating your operations like a profit center, get in touch with Turno, the all-in-one cleaning and turnover management platform built specifically for short-term rental hosts. With their global cleaner marketplace, automated scheduling and real-time updates, you'll never stress about turnovers again. Whether you manage one property or 100, Turno helps you stay guest-ready effortlessly. Visit turno.com for further details or click the link in the show notes to get started. It's time to let Turno take over. And remember, for more vacation rental education, head to houseplanet.club, where you can sign up for our newsletter, listen to our podcasts, and download a suite of ebooks for hosts and property managers. Thanks for tuning in to Turnover Tactics. Until next time, happy hosting.